Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a Navy aircraft structural mechanic who got caught in a classic case of workplace bureaucracy gone wild. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. You want a maintenance action for every paint job? Got it. This happened while I was at my second command in the Navy. I'm an aircraft structural mechanic, AM for short. We work on the aircraft body, tire, and wheel, hydraulics, and any paint corrosion issues. At the time, I was a second-class petty officer, think shift supervisor. I ran the command's paint shop on nights. We had a good system worked out with our maintenance control. They're the guys that direct all the shops to ensure that one group isn't jacking an aircraft while another needs to be inside it, or I would take care of prep work throughout the week, make sure we had stencils cut, get paint from hazmat, and then Friday nights, we'd run through all of the touch-up paint jobs for 2 or 3 jets. Throughout the week, I would be writing up maintenance actions, like a work order, for different spots we found on the jets, usually trying for at least one in each area with a different paint color to account for the paint usage on the plane. Come Friday night, everyone else would leave early, and my guys, one body from the maintenance control, couldn't do work without them, one from maintenance admin needed to complete our maintenance action, and myself would stay and paint the jets so they would have time to dry over the weekend. We were usually out by midnight, sometimes 0100 at the latest. This worked great for almost 2 years. Then we get some turnover in maintenance control and a brand new chief. Think the worst middle managers you've ever dealt with, but with a gut and a coffee mug? Decided he knew the best way to run my shop. Let's call him Chief Know Nothing. Monday night began with me being called into maintenance control. Chief Know Nothing told me he was implementing a new system. Every paint job now required its own maintenance action. His requirements were, if it wasn't connected by the same color or was more than 6 feet apart, it was a separate action. I tried to explain how this was a terrible idea, but it was shot down. He'd made up his mind, and starting this week, I was to write up every spot I found as its own job. As a quick aside, this is a tactic used by Navy leadership to get more bodies under them. If the workload he's in charge of doubles, then he can argue he needs more bodies. It's a jerk-swinging move and mostly just destroys sailors' sleep schedule as they shift from days to nights, then back again. So after complaining all Monday, I am a sailor after all, that's what we do best, I came to work Tuesday ready to maliciously comply. I picked one jet and I wrote up everything I could find. 5 scratches on one landing gear, 5 separate maintenance actions. All the jack points are scratched up, well, that's 3 separate actions right there. Scratches through the pilot's name, each letter gets its own maintenance action, possibly my favorite. Come Friday night, that jet had almost 3 pages of outstanding paint jobs waiting on it. This jet's going on a detachment Monday, and all of these have to be finished before it leaves. Everyone leaves except my shop, which is me and 3 other people, the Chief Know Nothing, and maintenance admin. I'd prepped my guys for a long night, and I gave maintenance admin a heads up, because I'm not a monster. You see, the issue with the system that processes our maintenance actions is we could only be in work on one maintenance action at a time. I couldn't be a worker, though, as I inspected their work, so I would put all 3 of my guys in work, waiting for them to finish those 3 jobs, inspect those 3 jobs, take them out of work while on those 3, then put them in work on 3 new jobs while I left the first ones to dry. I can't remember an exact number of how many jobs we had, but after starting at 1600, we finished painting around 0430. Then we went in the shop and signed off every single one of those jobs on one computer, which was completed around 0515, and sent over to the Chief Know Nothing and our maintenance admin to finalize. I sent my guys home and then waited around for Chief to call me into maintenance control to sign for tools. That call came around 0645 from a very disgruntled Chief Know Nothing who had some not nice things to say about how I ruined his weekend plans. Monday morning, I get a call from my chief, still a terrible middle manager, but one that fights for me, asking why the hell I worked till nearly 0700 on Saturday. So I explained we wrote up every paint job. Each individual paint job got its own maintenance action as per Chief Know Nothing's request. After my chief finished laughing, he told me to show up early tonight so we can figure out a new system. That new system, the same one that worked for the last 2 years without any issues. Doesn't matter if it's military or corporate. When you take over a position, you ask and watch how it's done by those who actually do the work. Write up suggested process improvements and run it by those actually doing the work. Test your ideas to see if they work, etc., etc. What a jackwagon. And our second story. HOA members want to force me to move my food garden. My next-door neighbors are HOA board members, and I assume they don't appreciate my small garden of fruit trees, bushes, and greens and pots. They've talked to me about the garden before, but never anything negative about it. After months of gardening, I just got an email from the HOA saying I need to move my garden because it's unsightly and a nuisance. I assume that's because this is the closest bylaw they could find that would work to force me to move the plants. My cars in the driveway block the plants from street view 80% of the time. I even work from home. I would deem unsightly needs to be seen. I wish my neighbors or anyone on the board would have just had a discussion with me about it rather than try and misconstrue verbiage of our bylaws and claim the garden is a nuisance. They claim that potted plants are not a problem to have, only mine. In particular, I would have been happy to comply originally, but now I am too angry to. So, by their wording, I should be able to keep my potted plants where they are as long as I make them somehow not unsightly? While I've not expanded upon what makes it unsightly, I assume because I'm growing food and not just flowers or decorative plants. My neighbors recently built a fence and attached to my fence without permission. I never said anything about it, but now I gave them a written letter telling them they need to disconnect from my fence and build their own. And our next story. A classic case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I, 31-year-old male, have been with my wife, 30-year-old female, for 10 years now, and she always has this habit of making me look bad with our finances. Whenever anything regarding spending money comes up, she'll always say how broke we are, and she doesn't have the money to do this or buy that. The thing is, we're doing well financially, we have decent jobs, and combined our salary is roughly $125,000 a year. As of today, our net worth is more than $1 million, but less than $2 million. I'd saved and invested a lot before getting married, so I gave us a good head start. I control the finances, take the lead, but we both agreed to living a very modest life. We both have cars from college, for example, Honda and Toyota. She knows everything about our finances because at least once a month I go over it with her every time I deposit money in our investment accounts or our kids' college funds. For banking, we have an emergency fund, and I budget everything else to go straight into investments. We basically stay right at $10K in our bank savings account and $500 in our checking account after bills. Edit, most of the time there's more than $500 in our checking, but once I pay our credit card each month, I then move anything extra. We always use the credit card, so it's not like we only have $500 to spend. Our credit card limit is $25,000. A few months ago, we had dinner with their friends, and they talked about buying a new car. My wife said something like, "I wish I could get a new car, but I'm always broke after paying the bills. We still have our college cars." Edit. Wife does not want a new car. She'll go on to talk about if she has money, what she would want to buy, and it always makes me feel ashamed. This I'm broke story's been happening for years. When we were driving home, I asked her about it. She understood we have money, but it's how she feels because her bank account is always low. I said I can increase our budget or keep more money in our bank if she wants. Since we're doing well, I'm okay with spending more. She said no and again was happy with our finances. I explained that when she says we're broke, it makes me look bad and I feel ashamed. It's as though I can't provide for the family and or I'm bad with money. She doesn't see it that way. The same conversation has come up numerous times about us being broke. Recently, I reminded her numerous times it makes me feel and look bad in front of friends and family. I told her if she keeps saying stuff like that, I'll reveal that we're doing well with money. I gave her a few reminders I'd eventually do this, but she kept going with the I'm broke story. At a dinner with her sister and parents, the same I'm broke story came up. I piped in and said, "It's weird to hear a millionaire say they're broke." My wife said, "Haha, I'm not though." And I quickly say, "We are millionaires and you know that. We go over our finances every month." Well, the I'm broke story stopped after that, and the night went on as usual. A little later, the same thing happens with her friends, and I use the same line. Now my wife's mad at me for using that line and revealing roughly how much money we have. She said it seems like I'm gloating. I say it's better than making me look like I'm running us into the ground financially. So, am I the a-hole for revealing our net worth when my wife says we're broke? Edit. Final update for now as we have a long weekend planned. Some key points I saw a lot of and wanted to give answers. I'm pretty open to us spending money and I don't restrict her spending. She has the credit card to spend money monthly. Most of the month we have far more than $500 in our checking, but I move anything above to our investments once I pay the credit card every month. I know I won't have any big expenses then. If I do, we have the credit card limit and the $10K emergency cash. We live in a really cheap area that has a low cost of living. We never felt the need to upgrade until we wanted to start having kids. I didn't have to change our lifestyle much to save a lot. My job's in demand and pays well because nobody wants to live out in my area. So after expenses, I take home a lot more than I would living in a major city. Probably 3 to 4 times more net savings annually if I had to guess. She doesn't want a new car and has told me that multiple times. She doesn't like driving and feels comfortable with her current car. She doesn't know what she wants to do when she retires. I know I'll be golfing, games, and drinking beer. I don't do any of this much now because we have kids and they'll be my focus for a long time. It's very weird that your wife feels the need to constantly downplay and pretend that she's poor. What about all the people who are actually struggling? And our last story. Entitled Parker parked in my driveway, so I blocked them in and got drunk all weekend. Friday night, I came home from work to find someone on our block was having a large party and someone decided they were entitled to park in my driveway. Keep in mind, my driveway is a single car width lined with a retaining wall on both sides and a garage at the end. Essentially impossible for a tow truck to come pull them out without property damage. Seeing this and the lack of street parking, I took this as a cue to park right behind them in my driveway. Now a few hours go by and they're entitled parkers knocking at my door demanding I move my car so she can leave. Seeing as they were demanding, I informed them that I'd been drinking and would not move my car. The entitled parker then decides to call the police to get them to force me to move. When the police knocked on my door, I was sure to grab a beer from the fridge before I answered to talk to the officer. I'd informed him that after I got home, I was unwinding and had been drinking and was in no shape to drive. At this point, their hands were tied because they couldn't tow her car out. I'm in no shape to drive, and I'm legally parked in my driveway. I ended up telling the entitled parker that since it's a long weekend, I would be on a weekend-long bender, and they could come move my car after I go to work on Tuesday. The absolute entitled audacity to park in someone else's driveway without permission. I would have taken an Uber to work on Tuesday, just as an extra FU. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.